Hi everyone, I'm Christine Duque, and welcome to a special transitions episode. As we launch the second season of Shattering Glass In Heels, please join me and my friends Lilit, Davtyan, and Tish Berbaum to talk about transitions. So let's just dive right into it. Lilit, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your journey today.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for having me here, and congratulations on a transition episode, and I look forward to your second season as well. So I'm Lilit Davtyan. I'm formerly a CEO and in the process of transitioning myself, so I'm really excited for this episode. I am transitioning from a large tech company to my own tech company, as well as consulting and partnership, which I'm sure we'll get into as well during this episode. But I think transitioning is something that needs to be focused on. I think people transition for all kinds of reasons in their lives and in their careers, and I've had many of those in mine, and it's just felt really, really good when you finally get to the other side. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tish?
Thank you so much for having me on this show. I'm so excited. I enjoyed several of your shows last season, and it was fantastic just to watch your amazing journey and the things that you've shared with so many people on this show in general. So I can't wait for next season. And I'm Tish Berbaum, and I am so excited. I also just recently transitioned. I was a co-founder before at a wealth management firm, independent RIA. And what we did was help people create their legacy. And now I just transitioned and launched my own firm. Super excited. Blue Sands Wealth going forward. And it is empowering and amazing. And just like you were saying before, we'll get through a little bit of the details, I'm sure, but the butterflies that you have in your stomach right before you make that transition, the things that hold you back, and then when you get to the other side, you say to yourself, I wish I'd done it sooner. So I can't wait to get into the details.
Yeah, so for all of those who are watching, Lilit, you probably have known from season 1. She was in the podcast, and you'll see Tish in season 2. And I'm really excited about this transition episode because I myself have been transitioned. So been working for large enterprise companies and also now in a position of transitioning into building my own company. And there's definitely a story around why in the direction of where I'm going. And so that's also part of the reason why I wanted you two ladies here, because I know we've shared the same journey around the transitions and the decisions. And I've heard from a lot of people who are also in transition and are looking for just that, advice or just dialogue around, what that means to be in transition and to also say that it's okay to be in transition. So to your point, the butterflies, the fear around transition, there's a lot of that. But I think there's a lot of people who are really kind of clamoring on to what does that story look like to be in transition. So let's just dive right into it. So maybe let's start with kind of your reasons for transition and kind of what prompted that.
Yeah. First of all, I'll tell you, I really don't think it's possible to do like a major career transition without a personal one. Or vice versa, really. Like when you start evaluating your life as it stands today, everything that you value and you believe in and the position that you're in, and then the timing of how long you've been in it, I personally think it's an overall transition you have to be willing to make. Like you can't just change one small part of your life in a major way and not let it affect everything else. So for me personally was, I was like over 10 years into a company. Like it was, I feel like a decade is a good time to make a nice transition and figure out what your next steps are going to be. And then, that added to like, my kids are growing up and they want more of my attention. And so that's kind of the effect that I had to be okay with, and take a little step back and build my own company, which is really hard to do. And then also like I also can't do one thing at a time. So then it's like, well, what else can I do? And then I can partner up here, I can do consulting here. All of that is awesome. The challenge that I've seen during this process, and I'm still in the thick of it, like and I know it's gonna get really good, but to your point, like when you get the gut check done with people closest to you, it feels good, but then there's a fine line between getting too much gut check done and now it's like too many opinions are in your head, right? And then now it combined with the reasons you wanted to do this, being in the thick of it, is taking too long, everything is going to take longer than you plan for. But my reasons just overall come to, it was really time for me. Like I just, it kind of hit me overnight where I had to evaluate the last couple years of my life and be like, I was so grateful for everything that I've been through, the career that I've had. But, you know, I realized if I don't do this now with the energy that I currently have, I probably won't do it in the future and I will probably regret it. So just jump right in and do it. I'm excited to see what's coming.
Yeah. Tish, how about you?
Wow, everything that you're saying, I'm like sitting here nodding and agreeing, and I have had that same journey. And I think a lot of people listening is going to have some type of journey that's going to mirror that at some element. So thank you for sharing like the details of that. For me, it's similar, right? I've been in the industry, I've been investing, man, since I have been in elementary school, but I have had several major firms that I've worked with in the last 2 or 7 years each. And I've helped build and create and design those firms and help them become incredible, help clients become independent and reaching their goals. And it's been an amazing journey. And just to your point it's always been part of the dream. It's been always part of my goal to be able to open up a firm that I can have, that I can grow, to kind of see my visions, and really always I'm putting the clients first and figuring out what that looks like. And now it was time to win. When are you going to launch yours and go run with that going forward? And so that was really like, it was just timing. When does that make sense? And it was perfect timing. Like you said, also, there had to have been like a moment in time that kind of created that. And for me, it was really, I kind of hit a pivotal moment that I was doing a lot more of the operational things from where I was before. And I had to take a step back and realize, like, what do I want to be doing with my time? What is the best use of my time? How can I be best serving my clients and the people that I want to serve going forward? And at the end of the day, that's when I had to take a step back and realize, like, what's the most important thing in my life, prioritize it. And then when I checked in with the people in my life, it just made sense. This has always been part of the goal. I help my clients reach their goals. I need to be that leader so they can see me reach my goals as well. So we worked together in reaching those, and it all worked out, like, timing wise. Been planning on it for a year, but it's never perfect timing. So it was a something in your heart when you know it's right and it's right timing, things just kind of naturally happen.
I love how you said gut check and just reaching out to people in your life, because you are the two people that I reached out to in my life in the last couple of weeks. And it's, my story is the same, actually, slightly a little different, driven a little bit by medical issues and concerns, and that were just unseen and something that I would never have fathomed to be in consideration. But it really kind of put a lot of things into perspective in terms of how much time have I spent on planes, and away from home, and not being able to anchor down, nest down, build community, and really kind of much more grounded relationships. And so that started to kind of come into play. And then to also the same point, right? I've spent majority of my career building successful businesses for a lot of the largest companies in the world. And, was that something that I was really excited to do, wanted to do? What are the pros and cons of doing that? What is the upside for me? And I think, the timing was right in terms of like where I am in my career, what I have achieved, to take the next step and start my own thing. And it's been really scary to even say that, but the two of you're like, do it. And so here I am, and just really excited that, that's really kind of directionally, and it feels right in my gut and just in my being, because I'm the same thing. I've had other offers. I've talked to other people, but I couldn't just really even see myself wanting to do it, feeling that same kind of motivation and passion, because I think I've lost a lot of that. I lost my motivation to want to get up in the morning and try to make that difference. And so starting my own thing has given me that same excitement and jolt to be able to be in control, but to do things the way that I know that I would have wanted to do in a larger company. And so that's pretty exciting. It's scary at the same time, and pretty exciting. I want to talk a little bit about the guts and the butterflies and all of that kind of stuff. You know, what is the biggest fear as you start to transition and start something new? You know, want to hear from you guys. Yeah. I mean, pretty fluid conversation between all of us, right? I mean, candidly for me, so I think one of our good friends told me, like, the biggest drug that you have in your life is a paycheck.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Yes.
And so it was actually one of our common friends who said that. And I remember just really thinking about it, like, gosh, that is so true. And like, is that the one thing that's preventing you from starting your own thing, is just that, you know, feeling of comfort that, you know, every 2 weeks that check is just going to come in and it's always going to be there, whether you've had a good day or bad day. And I just really thought about it, like, well, if that is the biggest drug, which is true, like, how do I break that cycle and how do I think about it financially? Because I think that was pretty much the scariest part for me, was not having that security. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know. That was for me. That was the scariest part. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's a lot, I think, that goes into it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say, wake up one day and just decide to quit your job and start a
of
business,
course.
right? Like, there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done. I don't believe in, like, always have a backup plan, because I feel like you focus on it if you have it. But I'm a CPA. You would appreciate this too, Tish. Like, when it comes to financial health, like, you gotta have a backup plan, right?
Right.
So it's like, am I ready to take this step? And then you kind of realize, like, I've done pretty freaking good in my life. Like, if this doesn't work out for whatever reason, I have enough background to go get another stable job, right? Like, you have to be confident to start this with the confidence that you can actually do this. And if for whatever, hopefully external reasons, not anything internally, like, you can't do it, you are confident enough. The fact that I even took this step, like, it's a motivation boost. That's one of the things, like, the financial planning of it. The second part of this is, like, people think when you start your own business, it's like, oh, it's your flexibility and, like, you can sleep more, and it is really the opposite, right? You actually sleep a lot less, and now if you're working with different countries, your time zones are completely off. You sleep, your sleep habits, not just the timing you're sleeping, is completely off. And if you're used to routine, because somebody else makes you have a routine, when you work somewhere, you show up at the same time and you have a meeting, right? Can you do that to yourself? Like, can you actually put an alarm at 6:30 in the morning, because that's what an entrepreneur should do? And then it takes time to get there. So some of my fears were, can I discipline myself the way that another company could discipline me? And it took us some time. My kids are my alarm clock, though, so they kind of help. And yeah, I think there's those are just a few of the risks.
You have to have that, like, self-motivation.
Yeah.
When you look at those job descriptions, highly motivated, self-starter, like, in a large reference, like, this is, like, being an entrepreneur is 100% that. Like, no one's gonna, especially you own your own company, like, no one's gonna, like, keep you accountable to, like, waking up at a certain hour. Like,
it's actually getting into the high of it. It's, when I left the company, I had a really good routine. I was working almost 6 days a week every week. And then it's like, oh my God, before I even start anything, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to get a massage. 3 days of that, and I'm like, oh, this world wasn't meant for me. Like, I need to make some money. It was that personality, definitely. You have to be self-motivated to do it, and then you also have to know, like, can you really have a complete different lifestyle? So that's my side.
I mean, me and being in a larger company too, it's like, I'm burnt out. I remember I've done this so many times. I'm burnt out. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to middle summer. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have a massage. I'm going to sit by the beach, read a book. I'm like, 30 minutes into it, I'm like,
your panic starts.
I'm like, I need to move. I'm like, scuba diving, can I get certified? Like, now, like, you're like 1,500 different activities for a goal on vacation. It just never happens. But
I 100% can relate. Same thing. For me, definitely financial was scary, right? Because you've built something, you've created over a long period of time, and so you're just letting go of the security. So I think a lot of people, I think that's a big fear that people have, right? Because you're building something, but you're waiting for, like, the security of something consistent no matter what. So it's that protection. And then, like, the fear of failure. Like, what if I fail? Well, I tell my kids all the time, if you fail, you get back up again, and then off we go, we run. And the same thing happens like in the markets pull back, it drops down, but it comes back up. So being able to take my own advice, it's important, and being able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's kind of been my motto of the year, of being able to have that paradigm shift of saying, hey, look, I can't let the fear stop me. I can't let the security stop me, the protection stop me, things that I've built. If I want to create something different, I can't have the same. I have to have change. I have to create those things. And yes, it creates like the idea of I can go anywhere and I could be anywhere and work. But like you said, I am like working more than I've ever worked, and it's just around the clock there, and I'm still in that transition. So at the end of the day, I think it'll get a little better, but I've had to work hard on creating self-care, self-time, and stop, take a break, do things that I love, like go to hot yoga and take care of me. That's what I'm having to like pull myself away from, and saying, look, it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's a journey. We will get there. It's like that I want to be successful overnight situation. And so you're working really hard. You know the vision of where you want. You're working just to make that happen. Sometimes it's okay to just know it's a process. Create like reasonable timelines to get yourself there. And then you're able to not be so hard on yourself and enjoy the process of the transition. It's exciting. You're rebirthing something that's amazing. It's your vision. It's your dream.
I want to talk about the financial aspect a little bit, because you and I have had a lot of conversations around it, not just because when I was in transition, but what we were looking and observing in the market in like the past year is a lot of people getting laid off, a lot of people in high executive level positions getting laid off. And I know you asked me specifically, what are those, fears? And I think to not just a stable paycheck, right? Do you have enough to sustain and provide for your family being the other piece of it? But a lot of executive packages come with stock options. Majority of what, our compensation, what people don't realize is it's not cash on hand from a salary perspective.
It's the whole package.
It's a whole package.
Yep.
And a lot of those stock options are actually tied into restricted stock units that are, the value of them is projected over time. And so I think that was part of like, a lot of the fears of people were saying, hey, is the value of the stock actually going to be that valuable or really hold the value? And so I think that was also some of my really thoughts. Well, it's not real dollars and cents for me as well. Like, and so I think that was a lot of kind of like the fear, and people were really thinking from a financial perspective, because, there's just so many executives that have, not by choice, have had to, transition out of their current roles. And I think that was also, an observation I've made with other people too, around the fear of the stock values that they have, that's going to hold, and then B, are they going to find the next role that's actually going to compensate them in the high salary and total benefit packages that they have. So, and that's a trend that I've seen, particularly in the tech industry, in the last year. So, those are my fears. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add to that perspective. So
yeah, and so like some of the things that you've shared, and I've had a lot of clients in the tech space as well, and I'm always pushing back, like diversification. I always say is go back and talk to your trusted person. It's a financial advisor, it's an investment person, loved one, spouse. Talk to someone about what that looks like, because everybody is different. Everyone's package could be different. Everyone's situation is different. And we're all talking about this here in the room, but all of us are different, right? And then there's also like that peer-to-peer that you want to talk to people as well. And I feel like that is so important, because what works for one person doesn't work for another person. One person can take on a higher level risk than another person, and it depends on what that specific situation is. That's where you can kind of get into the details. Whenever you're going through those transitions, I'm a planner. I'm a planner at heart. So I always say, go back to that person and make sure the numbers and cents, it works in general, right? You're reviewing it, and then you take a step back and then kind of digest that and saying, okay, can I scale back some of my expenses in the meantime while I figure all the money element out? Or you can run a million scenarios, but at the end of the day, then you have to be able to feel comfortable with what you're jumping into. And you're right. Sometimes you're not going to get that opportunity going forward, or it's going to look different, and you're sacrificing and you're making a change. And I see it all the time, like when you're like, especially in tech, a lot of times people are having to walk away from vested options. But the reality is you might not have even, that wasn't even yours anyway, and that's like their intention to keep you. That's their incentive. So you also have to figure like, what is your opportunity you have going forward, and also measure that when you're doing your comparison and seeing what that looks like. So it is risk, but not being afraid of risk and understanding it. And I just say like, do your homework all the time. And like that we've talked about that in general, like just doing your homework. I feel like then you feel comfortable with making an educated decision that works for you. Maybe not what's going to work for the other person and other people and their scenarios, but be specific. Figure out if it's going to work for you. That's going to help you sleep at night, make those decisions. I mean, from even my own numbers, I can't even tell you how many times I ran the numbers, making sure like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? This is going to be crazy. There might be some like ramen back in my situation, back to like college days and peanut butter and jelly. But the end of the day, you're making a risk and you're taking it and you're investing in yourself. And if you know yourself, like I know myself, I've done it before, I'm going to do it again. Like Field of Dreams, right? You build it, they'll come. I keep on telling myself that, but it is... And it's come out and it's been amazing, that journey, but I've had to go through that scary element of what does that look like on the other side. And I'm not there yet, but it will be at some point. But yes, the financial element is something that every single person deals with. But I'm gonna add one more thing, if that's okay, is some things that people don't think about is they just think about saving, right? This is how much money I'm saving because they're on like that employee mentality. But when you're a business owner, I think a lot of times the difference is you're thinking about investing in yourself, investing in your company, investing in the market, investing in real estate, investing in assets. I'm throwing it all out there, all different kinds of ways that you're investing and you're having your money work for you. And even if you are now investing in you, you're now going to pay off over time. So thinking about investing versus saving and bringing home a paycheck is a different mindset. I think the difference of being an employee to an owner.
I completely agree. I think there's a lot of considerations when it comes to financial risk. This is why I love America, right? Like you have so many different ways of starting a business, and you can either wait until you're able to cash out on your plan that you had with other companies, but in the meantime get a loan and then like paid back later, or you can go into pre-seed funding and seed funding and all of that, or you can ask family friends for money, or you can actually, I think the best way for somebody that is tight on cash to start a business is plan out your transition. Like it doesn't have to be all at once, because that gets boring too, actually. Like, what is your first plan, and how are you going to create, in my case from a tech perspective, an MVP to go into market? As you get more clients, how do you have your phase 2? Make it even better. Then is that even something that you're going to grow? What is your ultimate plan? And if you plan it out like that, knowing all of your options, and I love options, because I think when you choose something out of 2 or 3 options, you're more confident because you chose it, not because you were forced into something. So I think once you evaluate your options, how are you going to get funding? Going to the type of business that actually goes with that. So there's a difference between investing your $1 million to build a product, or going into something like consulting, where your really main risk is just not making income. You're not actually putting your prior income, too much of it, into the business, right? There's that type of business too. So which one did you choose? Was it right for you? Was it not? Which is why, if we go back to gut check, you got to talk to the right people. Like you absolutely do, because something that worked for me might not work for you, and vice versa, because I might have money and you didn't, or vice versa, or I might have had more support or not had more support. All of those considerations, that's why it's not an overnight thing. You have to go through that. Why did you choose to transition? Is it because you were upset at your prior company? That's not a good enough reason to transition, right? Then go to another company. And then the final thing I'll say about that is you also have to consider, like, I was a hired executive, just like you guys. The risk that you're able to take when it's not fully your money is a lot higher, right? And I was fortunate enough to work with somebody that had a higher risk appetite than me. So it motivated me to take bigger risks and make a lot more money for the company. Well, guess what? I probably won't take that level of risk for me in a startup phase, right? So I have to know I'm not going to be the old Lilit because I'm going to operate a little bit differently, a little more with more caution. And I have to be okay with the slower ramp up of finance. But I also know I love money and I'm going to get there at some point. I just have to have my patience and my phased out plan and get there at some point. So there's so many considerations when it comes to finances.
100%. And I think comes back down to who do you gut check with? And I'm so grateful I have the two of you to gut check with, because I'm going to be honest, right? I mean, you're a CPA, you're in finance, and I've talked to you about this, and I'm just going to be candid because I know that there are other women who are there who are really good at finance from a business perspective. I'm like, P&L, EBITDA for everything that I'm looking at. When it comes to my own personal finances, I just don't have the bandwidth, the time to really actually exert the same type of effort. And so I know I need help.
And it's
and
common.
It's common, right?
It's common in CPAs too, but
Yeah.
don't give us that much credit. We're better at managing your money.
Okay, that's really good, because I'm just kind of like, that was really kind of the phone call too. It was like, I think Tisha just like, do you want to see it? Do you want to just handle it? was really the conversation. Just handle it and tell me, it's kind of crazy. It's like, I think it reverts back. I said, I think I'm reverting back to when I was like, just give me the allowance and tell me what that is. And I think I remember talking to one of my partners who was like, I just know if you give me the allowance, a pair of shoes is $1,000. I'm just being honest with what it is that I need and what I don't need.
That's also a level of investment, right? Like, to me, I think it doesn't have to be $1,000 shoes, but whatever you walk into a room confident to make some money is actually good investment.
Yes.
Like, I think dressing properly when you walk into a room to make a deal is very, very, very important. Not just for you because you walk in with confidence and you say the right things because you just already feel like the physical aspect is out of the way and I feel really great, but it's also how you're perceived. And you can really lose a lot of deals simply by not walking in like you want to do the deal. And you can't do that in your sweats. You can't do that in tennis shoes. You have to know what you're walking into. How is that crowd perceiving you dressed up? You also don't want to be overdressed for them, right? There's a cultural dynamic. Are you doing your research? How are you going to speak? How are you going to approach it? Is there respect and consideration when you're talking to these people? So I think there's so much that goes into it. That's also an investment. Your time is an investment. I personally, I love shoes. You know me.
I mean,
that is a great.
I think we all do.
We all do.
Yeah. But and if you use it in business and you use it properly, like it's great. Why not?
Great.
The purse, the shoes, whatever it is, and sometimes the car. But
there's always. I mean, it's all. It's. I think it's everything that you're thinking. I love the fact that you said earlier that it's a mindset shift, right? Of like what you're investing in. And I think not just because we're in transition, but I think as women as well, we're made to feel guilty that wanting all of these things, like, your shoes, the purse, the car is excessive, and just, something that it's like, well, that's just so expensive, or putting sort of guilt values to what that investment looks like. And I think I like that, because so many times we don't want to invest in ourselves, especially as women. We are probably going to sacrifice and invest that money in others, whether it's our kids, our family, or something else. And it's not a value that we would kind of put back to ourselves in terms of that investment or dollars that we think a lot of women probably would say, or a lot of people would be made to believe that that's excessive.
I think it's only excessive if you are not going to wear it in the next 12 months. It's probably too much already, but it's also if you really, really like it and it makes you feel good, and you've earned it. That's the most important thing, right? Like, you didn't just find money on the street and buy it. Like, you worked tirelessly for years. What were you going to spend this? Sure, there's the investment side, there's all of this, but yes, and I think in your maybe 30s and 40s, you want to sacrifice a little bit of your luxury life for the future, for yourself and your kids. But you also don't want to burn yourself out by just working, saving. And then you're looking at yourself and you're like, I'm no longer confident. I no longer have energy. Like, nobody deserves that too. And if you have a family, like, they don't deserve that side of you. They deserve the happy side and whatever you want to, whatever makes you really, really comfortable. Like,
I think that was also kind of my bit, it's just money. I can earn it. I know, and that was also some of the confidence that both of you given. Tish, you and I talked a lot about this. Like, you know what your earning potential is. You know what you're going to do. So if there's going to be a point in your life that you're going to bet on yourself now, and just do it. And I think that really kind of expels the fear of like, I know I can do this. You know, that I know how to make money, and that gives me kind of like the confidence. Sure, the paycheck is not biweekly, but like, it's going to come. And every other person that I've talked to, really successful CEO who also started her own company, she said, don't worry about it. You are going to replace the income and then some.
And it's a journey and having trust in yourself. And sometimes you do really well, but I'm also going to make a plug for the people that don't do well out there, but they learn from it. And they build themselves back up and they go do something different. I mean, every successful entrepreneur I know, part of failure is part of the winning, part of the success, right? We learned something from that and we're like, okay, well, that didn't work. How can we go and do it better and build it better and faster? And that's great. Now I learned it sooner, so then I can become better at what I do and be able to help improve. And by doing that, now your business flourishes even more. So that is, I think, critical. But going back to just spending on yourself, I do want to say is I believe in having your money work for you. And investing in yourself is also as important as investing in other things as well. And so when you walk in, your confidence sells you as well, and how you feel about yourself. If you're having an internal dialogue that you're having not self-confidence, you're not feeling good, you know what? I've told myself personally, this is like a fun fact, but like, you know, my weight will fluctuate. And so where I'm at, sometimes they make, you know, they used to like give me a hard time is I'll just go out and get another outfit. Because if I'm going somewhere and like my clothes, they don't feel good, they don't look good, I'll go get another outfit. And the reason why I do that is I want to feel good. I'm going to look good no matter where I am. I'm going to show up who I am. And this is where I'm at in my life right now and today. And when I do that and I let it go, it doesn't mean I'm spending a lot of money, but when I do that, I feel good. I walk into that meeting or I walk into that presentation, I get on the stage or I show up for myself and I feel great and I look great. And then I move forward and I am able to become a better mom, a better business owner, a better person by doing that. So that little investment is investment in myself, but I feel good and I'm okay with where I'm at that moment, and it is what it is because I have that in my own internal struggle. But by doing that, it's a little piece that I've kind of given up. But by making, you know, that, hey, I'm getting a new outfit, I feel good. And I've walked in and I've taken care of what I need to take care of. And at the end of the day, it's just a number printed on a piece of clothing that honestly, like I don't let bother me. And I try to like break through that of like that self-barrier internally. But it was an investment. It was an investment in me as well. So I you know, if that's shoes for you guys, or if that's a handbag, or if that's whatever it is, then I want to give women permission to also make the investment in themselves when they might not do that, because that makes them feel good to be able to make the jump to do something that's courageous that they're already doing.
I like that because I think the self-care aspect of it and putting yourself first, there's so much guilt around what you do that. And if I look back at like myself and my career, right, I was actually talking to a young student yesterday about this, and he said, what made you move from Newport to, you know, from New York to Newport? And I said, you know, the first half of my career, I really appreciated New York City and the hustle of New York City and what that did for me. And I just remember how hard I worked. And New York is that, the word for New York is ambition, and it just doesn't stop. And, you know, but then I really thought myself after the pandemic and everything else that, you know, in this next phase of my life, it's not about like hustling so much in that kind of capacity where I'm staying up all night, putting a proposal together, putting a deck together, and then I'm showing up to my teams like, here's how hard I work, here's how everything is, but I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And it just was an aha moment that I needed to actually show up very, very differently as an executive and as a leader, where if I've taken care of myself and I've put in the investment and the time to be good, to feel good, and work smarter, right, in terms of maximizing my time and showing up to my teams, not haggard, not exhausted, but in the best mindset, to really drive that kind of productivity forward, not feeling haggard like I've hustled all night, it totally changes the game and the dynamic of my teams and how I've showed up. And that was really more of what I was seeking, was a little bit of that balance. And I think New York to me was, it never stopped. Every single conversation that I've had was always about business, and there wasn't really a whole personal thing. You go to some event and the first question is like, well, what do you do? And California is so different that way. I kind of like that business aspect of it, where I didn't even, getting to know you both was not even about like, oh, what's your title? What do you do? It was just so much of it is like, you and I were sitting by a pool. We're just really just talking. It just, you get to know people as people first before you start to really think of the business aspect. So it's a little bit of a shift. And for me, it's a little bit of a mindset shift as well, from how you do business and kind of like that grind of how you do that. And I think that that's super important for other people to also hear, not just because when you're in transition, but around how best to show up by investing in yourself in everything that you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for another company.
I agree with you. But here's the thing, like, everything has its own timeline, right? Like, you know, New York transitioning into Newport 5 years ago might not have been the right time for you, because you were deep into the hustle and you didn't necessarily want to work smart. Working hard was just good enough. Like,
and I haven't met you yet, right?
You haven't met me yet, and that's, and then there's like, then you have kids, or you know, you have a dog. It doesn't matter. Like, something in your life changes, and to me, it's like, if we expect our minds to expand and become wiser, our personality has to change. Otherwise, like, you have an internal conflict, right? So I think self-awareness is important. At what point in your life, outside of being lazy, because I don't think that's a transition in your life at all. That's just that's a personal thing to work on. But when you're at a certain place in your life, it does not matter what it is. How have you adjusted your environment to most comfortably navigate through that time of your life? And for me right now, is my kids are old enough to want to spend so much time with me, and they're old enough to be actually really fun to spend time with. And before this, like the last 10 years, I loved the hustle. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to work smart. I wanted to work hard. I wanted to work long hours, show off that I was working long hours, make the big paycheck and call it a day, and then wake up and do it again. Now it's like, I want to dedicate 2 hours a day to work, and then do some self-care and time with my kids for the rest of the time. Yes, I know once a business launches, it's going to be 24/7 grind, but at least I'll have enough of self-awareness. My environment would have set in a way that I can handle the hustle and bustle that's going to come with being an entrepreneur. So I think it's just the timing. As long as you're aware of it, it'll work out just fine.
Yeah. I mean, to the point of kids in general, is I've always been an advocate. I've never settled for like the 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's kind of been my calling card, I think, through my entire career. I have 2 children and I love them, and a husband that I enjoy spending time with. And I've never put them like the last on my list. They've always been also incredibly important. And I've figured out a way for the people who are like, hey, look, I work 9 to 5. Before COVID, I was saying, hey, look, I want to work remote XYZ days per week. And that has been part of what I've done. I've recreated the rules on the way that people come to work and show up. I would work twice as many hours as other people, but maybe just I wouldn't be in the office. So now with COVID, it is a little after COVID, it's been a little bit, we understand that we can still be efficient. We can still get stuff done and be in and out of the office, but you don't have to be so rigid, and you can still get things done and prioritize things in your life to kind of get there where you want to be and kind of your overarching goals.
It totally is a timing thing. And there's always other factors that will kind of come in and creep you and tell you to slow down. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely had that where it's like, okay, I'm going to start my own company. Okay, go. I'm like, then, my body says no. Down. Yeah. Like, you can't. Like, yes. I didn't used to hit these walls, and suddenly I hit these walls, and it's kind of like, no, you really need to stop, and you need to slow down. You need to take care of yourself. You don't have that kind of bandwidth. And so, and then it's had to retrain me to think, do you really need it now, or can it wait a little bit, or how do you kind of like pace itself out? Because for me, everything is instant, and I like move really, really fast, and I just want it really, really fast. And I feel like if I'm not moving that pace, that I'm not hustling or not being productive. And so it was a really, really strange thing for me to be in a position of just like, stop, take care of yourself, you know. And one of my really good friends has said, listen, all the blessings that are meant for you, they're not going to go away. They're meant for you, but you're not in a position to be able to receive them. Hence the reason why you need to slow down. You need to take care of yourself, because if the business was handed to you today in your state, can you handle it? I'm like, no, go to bed, right? Go take care of yourself. Go and take care of health. And I thought that that was so profound, because I never really thought about it, that the time and rest and taking care of yourself and being in a place to receive and being able to place to navigate through what you needed to get done was, you know, there is a blessing into that as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
By the way, there's I was actually watching something yesterday. I forget who said it, so I'll just say like quote anonymous, just because it's not mine. But it's like, it's perspective too, right? So like what I was watching went like this: what if I was to give you $1 million? Like, would you accept it? It's like, of course I will. Who wouldn't accept it, right? It's like, okay, what if I give you 10 million? Well, even better, right? But here's the hit: like, if I give you 10 million today, you might not wake up tomorrow. Will you take it? I mean, 9.9 out of 10 people will say, no, I won't take it, right? And so the lesson there, the perspective is waking up tomorrow worth more than $10 million for you? Yes, it is. So why don't you have the same mindset every time you wake up, right? Why does somebody have to give you this option first for you to realize how waking up is the most important thing for you? And if you put yourself through the grind longer than your mind and body is used to, are you going to wake up the next day? Like, is that worth it? You're not even getting $10 million worth.
Yeah.
So it kind of hit me, and I sent it around to a couple of friends, and I was like, we really need to wake up like this. It's, I think perspective is everything. Your friends have a different perspective of you than what you have of yourself. We're always harder on ourselves too. We want to impress ourselves and everybody around us, but they don't look at you like that. They
do. I want to pivot a little bit because like we talked a little about finance and all the different fears. I want to talk about the other really important, crucial part of this is like, who's your sounding board and who's your support system? Because there's no way I think anyone can go through this journey, especially being an entrepreneur and doing this transition, without that support system. And I think it's not so much around like everyone has their group of who, but I think what's probably I wanted people to hear is like, you know, what are the qualities that people should be looking for within that support system, within that sounding board, as they're going through these transitions? Because I love the fact that you're talking about, like, you talk to so many people and then suddenly get too many opinions. So, like, what does that, you know, clear head, clear vision sounding board kind of look like in support? So
I think it has a lot to do with exactly what topic you want to discuss, right? Like, I don't believe in burdening somebody else with problems where they can't help you, right? Because all you really did is pass on your problems to somebody else. You felt a little better, but now they have all these things in their head and they're worried now. They can't really help. So I think that everybody has a place in your life where they should be street, and some people could do it all, right? Some people can really handle, like, you can throw anything at me and vice versa. We can definitely handle any kind of conversation, but not everybody can, and I want to be respectful of that too. So for example, when it comes to finances, you talk to your family. It could be your spouse, your parents. Those are the people that are going to be firstly directly impacted by the financial choices you make by starting your own firm or transitioning into a lesser paying job, whatever your transition is going to be, or going back to school. That's a major transition. A lot of people after COVID started going back to school. I respect it. I think it's harder actually than to start a business, because that's years and years of just no income, for a very future investment, right? But very respectful. Who do you talk to about that? Professors, and you talk to, like, you know, your old classmates and people that are already in the position you see yourself in, and how can they give you a perspective there? And then when it comes to, like, you know, am I really doing the right thing? You know, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you talk to other entrepreneurs. You could talk to executives in firms, because they might have thought about it, but they will never be able to give you the other side, right? I'm still going through this transitional phase, and I know I'm in the thick of it. I also know it's going to be completely different on the other side. Most of it is my doing. A lot of it is environmental, but it could be things I never considered unless I talk to somebody on the other side. So I think everybody, depending on what you need advice for, has their own place of how they can actually help you, which is why you don't want to ask too many people too many things. It's just a lot of unnecessary opinion.
Yeah. So, circling what we were talking about, just to kind of bridge the gap of taking care of yourself and to the circle of people who I consult with. My publicist, I shared with her, I'm like, I am so like, you are very good at boundaries. And she said to me that, Tish, someone once told her that like, it's like a car, right? She is a sports car, right? And so once you've got to the point that you're a sports car, you can redline it all the time. But then what happens is you're in the shop a lot longer versus if you just take steady breaks and then you don't have to go into the shop very often, and you have a much longer duration that you're able to have this high performance car without breaking down all the time. And it just was like, that made so much sense. And that example to me was, my historical concern has been like, I'm a closed book. I don't share with people. I process and then I go from there. And I, in the last year and a half, had a shift. And I always know like the people who you put in your circles is a direct reflection of you. So I always try to have mentors in my life. I always have. But this last year, I have worked on really developing more relationships with different networking groups that I want to affiliate with to learn from, like other women business owners, and learning from what they've done and learning from their experiences and being vulnerable. I think for me, it's being more vulnerable and being able to share my struggles, and they can help and share back with me. But to your point, like understanding people are in different places in different times, and you don't have to go through it alone. That was kind of more me, my personal battle. And having people in my life, and I would have some people in my life that are family that I would take advice from, but then also onto that same note, I also stopped soliciting advice from people that have no business soliciting advice in those spaces, and I wouldn't consult with them. I would still have them in my life, but I wouldn't consult with them on those topics because honestly, maybe they just don't have that experience to be able to give me that advice. And so instead of coming to a point that's like really constructive in my journey, it was more maybe coming from other biases that it just didn't make sense for me. And I kind of just was like, I also put in like a hard rule. I didn't need toxic people in my life. And I just said, I'm cleansing my life of toxic people. And if they're going to go down that path, I'm willing to hear things that I don't need, that I need a mirror for reality, but I also don't need negativity and pessimism. I'm going to do that all internally, my own stuff.
I got plenty of that. No?
Yeah. I don't need to add more, but I do need to be like, how do I look at this differently so I can, what are my pitfalls and how can I improve? But then also like, how can I become better at X, Y, and Z? And then also, like you said, reaching out to the people that can help me in those areas and making sure that I'm seeking the right team, putting a team in place, like having an amazing accountant that can help advise me and help me grow, having other executive women that are like, hey, I'm going through this. Like everyone I've found that has been more intentional, kind of just, it's also in my environment. Sometimes I just had to be more vulnerable to share some of the struggles that I'm going with. And then you realize that we're kind of going through some of the same things together. But sometimes if you're able to share, you can hear other great stories from other women that are, or men or people that have done similar situations that you can learn from. And I'd rather learn from them than me having to recreate the wheel, So, but the circles I think are super important.
Yeah. And it's definitely a two-way exchange. I'll add one more note to it. Like you wanna solicit advice from people that are gonna feel really good giving it to you, because that's their reward for giving you advice. And then along the way, like don't forget them. There's that too. Like there's people that will go around solicit a lot of advice and they'll actually utilize it and then forget that those people ever existed. Like and then nobody wants to give advice anymore to that, right? I love mentoring. Because I've had great mentors, right? I absolutely love it. And I make a note to like follow that person in their path and just feel really good. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not saying, hey, by the way, in the future, you're going to have to pay me back for all this, but none of that. Because you're either a mentor or you're not by heart. Like not everybody can just learn to be a mentor. I think, in my opinion, just like leadership is so different from being a boss. But when you're really good at it, you want that attention back. I gave you something that makes you feel really good, and the fact that you went and you ran with it and you're so happy about it is such a great reward for me.
Yeah.
So keep me in the loop so I feel really good, so I could do it for the next person. So I know that the world needs mentorship.
I think I talked a lot about this. Like I've always had my own personal board of advisors, and I would say in the last year that has changed. I've had to switch out some term limits and repurpose people because I've changed, and I need a new sounding board of people to kind of do that. And my personal board of advisors, a mixture of like my mentors and friends and things like that, and just people that I like to poll especially when I am making some really big decisions in my life, and I kind of want that 360-degree view of like personal, professional, and different aspects of it. And it's just, I think, something I also got from being a singer. Like when you're out singing and you can't hear yourself when you're in the moment of doing it. And it was something that I was always told by my singing teachers and people preference. You like keep people around you who know the voice so well that they can give you that kind of criticism. And so that's the same thing as my, personal board of advisors. They know me really, really well in different aspects of me, that they can give me kind of that kind of criticism or just, very safe space and advice of the things that I'm kind of going through. And so, of course, you two are on that board too. It has been really great. But then the other aspect of it is like, that's my personal, from a business perspective, especially being an entrepreneur. I've kind of gone through fits and starts around this, especially as I sort of starting to think about like, my company, who I'm partnered with. And that is the most critical aspect of it, especially being an entrepreneur. Who are your partners? Who are you doing business with? And I think that was also kind of like my aha moments of like why I didn't want to take the other positions that were offered to me was I trusted the people that I'm with so much and had that comfort in what we were building together that, to your point, like what motivates me every day, I'm super excited to wake up and talk to my partners and talk to the people that I'm with, because that is kind of like the motivation of kind of what's going to make me tick to go. But, it is also a level of trust of what you're kind of building together, and you're starting from scratch and being able to have that safe space and open dialogue to understand what everyone's going through, and everyone's fears, and how to adjust to that personal, professional, so that you can drive productivity together. But that to me has been a very, very critical aspect of relationship as I've made a transition and started my own.
I agree. I think when it comes to partnerships, business partnerships, whether it's a vendor, actual partner relationship, or a client, energy is everything, right? Like you can have a great business meeting with really negative energy and come out of there feeling like 5 years have gone out of your life, right?
You can also get that time back.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that time back.
You can also, on the flip side, you can walk into a room and have a really, really difficult deal, lose one too, but you're doing it with people that you trust, people that have good energy, and you still keep going. Like it's still motivating.
Yeah.
So I think choosing your partners the right way is the most important thing for the longevity of your business and your personal health, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah. I think we've got a few minutes left. Just kind of go around as we start to think about it. I think we've covered most of the topics. I don't know if there's anything that I've missed, or any sort of, maybe from your perspective, lasting things that we want to relay to other people out there. Just throwing that out there.
I would say if you're contemplating on it, don't hesitate. Reach out to your team, your people, and do the homework. But no one is going to live your dream for you. If you want your dream and you want something different, you have to take action, and it's never going to be the same if you continue to do the same thing. You're going to get the same result. If you want something different, you have to do something different. And so it's, like you said in the beginning, weigh in what that looks like, but you can come up with solutions to get there, do it in phases. you can do as a side hustle even in the beginning while you're kind of like figuring it out, and there's grants and there's, you know, lending, and there's ways you can make it happen. If you really want it, you can make it happen. I think you just have to sometimes get out of your own way to do it. And so I'm always available if you have questions or if people want to. I'm always available. I try to make myself just accessible for people when they are going through transitions, to be that sounding board, to ask questions. Financially, you got questions, but being there and understanding those things are hard and they're difficult, and we've all been there. And so get your cheerleaders and hold on to them, and do what makes you, what's the best thing for you, and at the right time. Maybe it's not the right time.
I completely agreed. I think it's one of those things like practice makes perfect. The more transitions you've had in your life, obviously the easier it is, because you know yourself well enough to know how you're going to feel on the other side, whether you fail or you don't. But my thing is, like, you know, you kind of have to do it. Like, you know, nobody, I'm sorry for being gory, but like nobody sits on their deathbed and says, I'm so glad I was in the same company for 50 years. Like, nobody does that, right?
Unless
like,
it's your company.
Unless it's your company. But even then, it's like, I wish I had tried this. I should have traveled more.
Right.
I should have done this. So you got to do it. And there's never a good time to do it. Like, just like I always tell people, there's never a good time to buy a house or have kids. But you figure it out. Like, you know, there's the environment is never going to perfectly line up for you. And if you expect it, that's delusion, and you should just probably stick it to your life for the rest of your time. But I think if you want any kind of excitement in your life, with the risk of failure and the understanding that that's a possibility, I think you should do something that you're very passionate about.
Yeah, I heard myself saying this to the kids last week, right? I've been through so many different transitions in my life. I think people have said you've lived 1,000 different lives, which is so true. And, you know, as I started to think about, you know, the last year, for example, and just really kind of this next new chapter and journey, and, you know, the cost of inaction is your life. You talked about this, and you were just like goosebumps, and just like I can't imagine. And so that to me is that the cost of inaction is your life. And that's probably the most important thing, is like, you know, given my medical challenges that I've had in the last year, like, how am I going to live my life, you know, and how you're going to define that. And to me, it's really seizing every single day that I have in living life. And that's super important. And so, it's not just taking a risk and a bet on myself, but it is manifesting to live in the reality of my dreams. Despite some of that, there have been so many moments even this year where I was in those moments, and they're pretty exciting, where you've dreamt of something for so long, and then you're like, suddenly this thing has been given to you, and you're living in the reality of that moment, of that dreams, and it's pretty exciting. And I want more of those, and more moments like that, and honestly, like, more moments with genuine relationships and partnerships as I kind of move forward in my life. And I think that's what I value the most, and the reasons why.
Well said. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think I know you well enough to know you're going to kick some butt.
Oh my gosh. I feel that was the other piece. Like, not just surrounding yourself with people who are going to give you advice, but people who are going to protect you. And the two of you protect me. And you need that. You need people who are going to protect you from so many different things and mistakes. And
focus on making money. We'll move everything else out of your way.
And I call Tish and I'm like, I need $1,000 for shoes.
Find it, girl.
So it's all good. But anyway, thank you both so much. It's super exciting what all three of us are headed towards, and thank you so much for just, you know, your willingness and time to share your stories and transition, because I know that's not easy. But I'm really hoping that everyone that's hearing this really finds a lot of value in our discussion, and, you know, and hopefully, brings that value and changes lives. So
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
propose a transition episode a year from today.
Yes.
And just like kind of like a come back and see how it, because we're all three of us are kind of in the same phase of life, and within a year I think at least a couple of us will have figured it out, right? What lessons we learned, any failures, any successes. I think it'll be so fun.
Actually
wait.
before we close,
Gives me
like
goosebumps.
a year from now, like transition episode, what would you want to say or be able to, what would be your headline in that 1 year episode? And
I'm
we'll close
happy.
from there.
Honestly, if I could stand here a year from now, no matter what the results were, and I say I'm really happy and I don't regret my decision, that's all I want. Yeah,
That's great.
Ooh, having confidence in myself and in trusting what I've done and I've built for other people, and trusting that I can continue to do that going forward is absolutely the pivotal moment of where I am now.
Yeah.
nice.
I think for me, a year from now, I'm a little bit more aggressive. I want to build this empire, so it's going to happen.
Oh, I didn't say that wasn't going to happen for sure. But trusting
That's a side effect we're talking about.
right. That's already in process.
But I agree. Like if I can, I mean, it's not to say that I'm unhappy now, but I think if, a year from now, if I can still say that I've continued to live my life to the fullest, and I'm continued to be happy and authentic and my honest self with the relationships that I also have around me, that would be success for me. So, but yeah, the empire is happening no matter what. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
stakes. That's given stakes. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you so much for having us. This has been a great, fun, journey of three amazing women, I think, together that are going to change our industries. And I just can't wait to come back in 1 year from now and see.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. So, all right. Well, thank you.